The courthouse always smells the same old paper, polished wood, and the kind of quiet that makes your heartbeat sound guilty. I walked in that morning with one goal: don't lose my daughter. Not my pride, not the house, not the money. Her dot across the hallway, my ex-wife, stood like she'd already won. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect smile that didn't reach her eyes, and beside her stood her new husband. He had one hand on her back, like he owned the moment, like he owned the story, like he owned my child. My ex-wife didn't wave. She didn't nod. She just looked at me like I was something she couldn't wait to erase. Then she leaned in close, enough for only me to hear, and whispered, "Hope you're ready to say goodbye." My stomach dropped, because I knew what she meant. This wasn't just a custody hearing. This was a final execution of the life I built as a father. But what she didn't know was that for months I'd been recording everything, not for revenge, not to destroy her, but because I heard things no parent should ever hear: plans, threats, coaching, lies. And one recording in particular was about to turn her perfect case into a nightmare. I'm not proud of how long I stayed quiet after the divorce. I tried my best to keep things peaceful. People always say, be the bigger person. So I tried. I showed up on time for pickups. I paid child support without complaint. I even kept my mouth shut when my ex-wife Sarah started posting pictures online with her new husband, Daniel, calling him a bonus dad. A bonus dad, like I was a defective product that needed replacement parts. Still, I didn't fight, because my daughter Maya was 7. She still believed grown-ups could fix things. She still believed love was simple, and I wanted her to feel safe. But then the changes started. Sudden schedule misunderstandings, school information I didn't receive, doctor appointments that happened without me knowing. And Maya started coming home different, not crying, not screaming, just quiet, like a child who had learned something about the world too early. One night, I was tucking her in, and she asked me this: "Daddy, if Mommy says something about you, am I allowed to believe you instead?" I froze. I asked her what she meant, gently. She shrugged like it was normal and whispered, "Mommy says you're not stable." A word no 7-year-old should even be using. Then she added, "Daniel says you might disappear." Disappear. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't feel angry. I felt something worse, fear, because I knew, in my bones, what was coming next, and I was right. 2 weeks later, I got the envelope. Petition filed by Sarah, requesting full custody. The document used words like emotional instability, unsafe environment, and unfit parent. I read those lines so many times, my eyes started to blur, and then I saw her reasoning: my history of stress, my demanding job, my unpredictability. It was a character assassination, written in legal font. And the worst part, it worked. People started looking at me differently. The school receptionist got colder. A parent I used to chat with stopped making eye contact. Even one of my relatives said, "Maybe she has a point." "You've seemed tense." Of course I was tense. Someone was trying to steal my child. My lawyer, Mr. Klein, was blunt. "Custody court is not about who loves the child more," he told me. "It's about which story looks more believable." And Sarah, she was building a story, a clean, polished story, single mother, supportive new husband, stable home. Concerned about the father and me. I was the problem. So I asked my lawyer what I could do. He said, document everything. Every exchange, every message, everything. That's when I bought a small voice recorder. At first, it felt ridiculous. I didn't want to secretly record my daughter's mother. I didn't want to become the kind of person who lived like a spy. But then Sarah made a mistake. It happened at a pickup. We were in the parking lot. Other parents around. Kids running. Sarah smiled like a saint and said politely, "Hey, Maya had a great weekend. Let's keep things calm, okay?" Then the second we were out of public view, behind my car door, her voice changed. Cold, sharp. "You need to stop trying," she hissed. "You're embarrassing yourself." I blinked. "Stop trying to be a father." She leaned in and whispered, "The judge will never trust you. Daniel knows how these things go. You're done." Then she walked away and waved at another parent like nothing happened. That was the moment I realized something. Sarah wasn't just angry, she was strategic. I started recording exchanges. Most were small things, at first pressure, manipulation. Then one day, I caught something bigger. A phone call. Sarah forgot to hang up. It was an accident. She thought she'd ended the call, but my phone kept recording, and I heard her voice on the other side, laughing once. "I have full custody," she said. "He won't have a say in anything. We'll move. I'm not raising Maya with his shadow hanging over us." Then Daniel's voice came in confident. "Just keep the story consistent. Make him look reactive." "Judges hate reactive men," Sarah replied. "He'll crack. He always does." And then she said the words that made my hands go numb. "After this, Maya won't even remember him." That night, I sat alone at my kitchen table, replaying that recording. Not because I wanted to punish Sarah, because I needed to remind myself. I wasn't imagining this. This was real. This was a plan. And my daughter was the prize. The day of the final hearing arrived like a storm you can't outrun. Sarah came in dressed like a professional spokesperson. Daniel at her side, confident and polished. They looked like stability. I looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks, and in court, appearance matters more than truth, and it doesn't. We took our seats. The judge was a woman in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and a calm expression that gave nothing away. Judge Carver, Sarah's lawyer, went first. Smooth, practiced, like he'd done this 100 times. He spoke about routine, consistency, a stable household. He praised Daniel for stepping into a father role. Then he turned toward me, and his voice got gentle in a way that felt cruel. "Mr. Reed is clearly a loving father," he said. "But love is not enough when a child needs stability." He implied I was overwhelmed. He implied I was unreliable. Sarah watched me the whole time with that small smile. Then Daniel took the stand. Daniel spoke like a man, auditioning to be trusted. He talked about Maya's anxiety after my visits. He said, "She's scared sometimes, scared." And then he said something that made my lungs tighten. "We want what's best for Maya, even if that means difficult choices." He looked at me like I was the difficult choice. Sarah's lawyer asked him, "Do you believe Maya is safe with her father?" Daniel paused dramatically. Then he said, "I have concerns." Concerns. One word that can destroy a parent. Then Sarah took the stand. Her voice trembled at the right moments. Her eyes shined like she'd watched tutorials on crying without ruining makeup. She described me as unpredictable, moody, emotionally volatile, and the judge listened, not reacting, not interrupting, just writing notes. When it was my turn, my lawyer stood and kept it simple. He didn't argue every accusation. He didn't do drama. He just said, "We have additional evidence." And that was when Sarah finally looked uncertain, because she thought she had all the power. She didn't know the truth was sitting quietly in my pocket. Judge Carver looked over her glasses and asked, "Is there any additional evidence either party wishes to submit?" Sarah's lawyer stood, placed a neat stack of documents on the bench, and said, "No further evidence, Your Honor." Confident. Then my lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small labeled drive and a folder of transcripts. Sarah's smile twitched. Daniel shifted in his seat, and Sarah's lawyer frowned, like he'd just realized the chessboard wasn't what he thought. My lawyer spoke calmly. "These are audio recordings of interactions between the petitioner and her spouse, as well as exchanges during custody-related communication." Sarah's lawyer tried to object. Judge Carver raised a hand. "On what grounds?" Sarah's lawyer hesitated. "Because he didn't have one," Judge Carver said. "Proceed." The courtroom got quieter than silence. The clerk played the first recording. Sarah's voice filled the room. Not her courtroom voice, her real one, cold. "Once I have full custody, he's out," she said. "I'm not co-parenting with a man I don't respect." Then Daniel's voice. "Make him look unstable. Push him just enough." Sarah laughed. "He'll react. He always reacts." Judge Carver looked up sharply. The next clip played. Daniel's voice again. "The court will love that we're a stable, married couple." "It's optics," Sarah replied. "And if he fights," Daniel said, "then we make him the villain." The judge paused the audio herself. She stared at Daniel. Not angry. Disappointed. Then she asked a question in a voice that cut through the room. "Mr. Reed, did you intend to relocate the child out of state?" Daniel blinked. We discussed options." Judge Carver's eyes narrowed. "So you admit relocation was discussed?" Daniel's lawyer rose. Flustered, Judge Carver didn't even look at him. She pressed play again, and the final recording, the one I'd dreaded, filled the speakers. Sarah's voice. Softer now, speaking like she was sharing a secret. "Maya will forget him. Kids forget." Then a pause. Then Daniel's voice. Quiet and satisfied. "Good." That one word hit the courtroom like a slap. "Good." Judge Carver's pen stopped, sat very still. Then she said something that made my heart jump into my throat. "Enough." Sarah's face went pale. Daniel looked like someone had drained his blood. Judge Carver looked directly at Sarah. "You have presented this court with a narrative of concern, but the evidence suggests strategy, manipulation, and intent to alienate the child from her father." Sarah's lawyer tried to speak. Judge Carver held up her hand again. Then she turned to Daniel. "And you, sir, appear to have played an active role in coaching that narrative." Daniel swallowed hard. His confidence was gone. His stable family act collapsed in real time. Sarah whispered, "This isn't fair." Judge Carver's voice lowered. "Fair would have been telling the truth." Judge Carver looked down at her notes. Then she spoke slowly. deliberately, like she wanted every word to land where it belonged. Primary custody will remain joint at this time, with the father receiving expanded parenting time. Sarah made a sound, half gasp, half choke. Judge Carver continued. The mother's request for full custody is denied. Daniel's jaw tightened. Sarah's eyes filled real this time. But the judge wasn't finished. Further, she said, due to evidence of coaching, threats, and alienation, the court is ordering supervised exchanges and a family therapist evaluation. Sarah's lawyer whispered urgently to her. Sarah shook her head like she didn't recognize the life she'd just destroyed. Judge Carver looked directly at Sarah. Any further attempts to manipulate the child will result in sanctions, including reduction of custody. Then she looked at me, and for the first time that day, her expression softened. Mr. Reed, the court recognizes your consistent behavior and restraint. I didn't feel victorious. I felt like a drowning man, finally reaching air. Because the truth, me when time it, protected my daughter from becoming a weapon. Judge Carver banged the gavel. Case adjourned. Outside the courthouse, the sky was still gray, but the air felt different, like the world wasn't pressing on my chest anymore. Sarah stormed past me without a word. Daniel followed, eyes down, his mask shattered. My lawyer exhaled and said quietly, "You did the right thing." I nodded, but I couldn't speak, because all I could think about was Maya. How small her hands felt when she held mine. How she hugged me like she was afraid I'd disappear. A few hours later, I picked her up. She climbed into the car seat and looked at me with those serious eyes kids get when they've been carrying adult stress. Daddy, did the judge believe you? I swallowed the lump in my throat. I think the judge believed the truth, I said. Maya stared out the window for a second, then whispered, "Good." I glanced at her. She wasn't smiling, but her shoulders were relaxed for the first time in months. And that's when I realized this was never about winning a courtroom fight. It was about giving my daughter something stronger than fear. A childhood where she didn't have to be coached, where she didn't have to choose sides, where she could just be a kid. That night, after she fell asleep, I opened my phone and looked at the recordings. Then, I backed them up, not as a threat, not as a weapon, but as protection. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between a child and chaos is one parent who refuses to stop fighting quietly. And I wasn't done being that parent. Not now, not ever.